Welcome to episode 2 of the B.B.B podcast. And there's no definitive name for it yet. I think we're going to keep it as that. But yeah, we probably later down the line we'll change the name. Right now, not the best time. So I feel like episode 2, we're not going to make it solo. We're going to have a guest on today, and his name is Ian with the channel Winter Society. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I actually don't really know. I'm all right. It's not openly positive. It's not openly negative. I'm just kind of okay.
Just in a stasis chamber at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Ian runs a channel called the Winter Society. I've actually rated 3 of the albums, the Psychotic Memories trilogy, which you can find in the description, as well as his channel and his secondary channel, Winter Does Stuff, I believe.
Yes, winter does stuff. That
Yes.
one, I really plan to grow that one this year because it's gonna just have a shit ton more content than the main Winter Society channel. And my goal by the end of the year is actually to have Winter Does Stuff have more subscribers than Winter Society.
Oh, hell
So,
yeah.
indeed.
Speaking of YouTube, how did you get into like creating a channel, and what made you start a channel to begin with?
I'm gonna be honest here, like sheer boredom, because I started my channel in junior year of high school. I don't know if any of you out there are English or don't have, that sort of education system, but it's the year before the last year in high school. And
Yeah.
I was in this sort of mental rut, and I wanted to find a way to express myself, get out of the black hole that was my household at that point in time. And I had a laptop at the time. I was, delving into music, and I had a program called Soundbridge that was kind of terrible at the time, but I've upgraded since then. But I got a camera that had kind of shit quality, kind of however YouTuber starts. It's just a spark of idea and boredom. And I started the main Winter Society channel um at that point because I was kind of like, you know what? I'll try something new. I haven't done anything like this before, but why not?
Fair enough. I don't know how the hell I got started with it. I think it's just like, okay, this is YouTube. Okay, watch a few videos. I'm like, I can do that. I can't. I can't. Then here we
uh,
are.
yeah, 180 subs later for you.
179 roughly. Yeah, I feel like it's 179 at this point.
Yeah. So you're getting there at least.
One, I feel like we're like two, roughly like 1/5 of the way of being monetized. Even though I don't care for this channel to get monetized, because I'm not gonna lie, it's a joke channel. I love to joke around with this, and if it gets monetized, it's fine, I guess.
Who cares about monetization?
Just have fun with it. But in terms of YouTube channel, you started, I believe you removed all the content, then started over again.
Yes, I've actually done that twice.
Twice? I've only known about the once.
The first time was a long while ago. I had actually started this channel when I was a lot younger. I was doing, like, I still use the same program, SoundBridge, like for my music and stuff, but I didn't have a camera at that time. And I was just sort of doing random shit. And my first cover was actually a cover of Fallout Boy's Centuries, of all
Ooh.
things. And back then, like, I think I still have that file on SoundBridge. It's atrocious. But the second time, that was recently. If I recall, like that was back in August. August, September, or October was when I deleted the huge log of stuff that I had made, spring of 2020 and onward.
Hmm. And then the second time was, I believe it was somewhere at the end of last year, like October, November ish.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I've only known about the first time because I'm not gonna lie, I'm like new to your community, so that's kind of like okay, you've because I don't know if I know for a fact I've seen your Dawn of the Demetrix reaction. And I think after that I just kind of went,
Yeah.
flatlined on the channel for a bit because I was finding some other channels at the time. Then I came back and I'm like, wait a minute, hmm?
Wait a second, it's that guy.
Like, wait a minute, how
And
do?
speaking of that reaction, I actually regret deleting some of the reactions, and that one is absolutely one of the videos that was on there that I do really regret because if you remember, that video was 2.5 hours long,
Yeah,
and it was the biggest thing I had made on the channel in terms of editing, um, like ever. Even the FNAF B playthroughs, we don't talk about those.
we don't talk about
Um,
them.
um, Even those which were longer considerably, like the biggest one spanning 5 hours of recording footage long.
Jesus.
That was the second game. But even though it was 5 hours long, it was with no edits. The Dawn of the Demetrix reaction had so much implemented in it, and I still think that there were a lot of videos, that one in particular, that should not have been gotten rid
I was
of.
about to say the editing for that video because you reacted to all the transmissions before the album release and you reacted to the actual album itself.
Yes, I reacted to those with my friend at the time. She goes by Love Light Music. She was a really good friend of mine back then. And I still hold her to a pretty high respect standard to this day. But we just kind of went our separate ways. After a little while, I really regret it, but hopefully we can reconnect soon. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Iris, you have made a deal with your audience regarding the Iris covers.
Yes, yes. um, I've actually gone before. The deal was that if every video got to above the views of the least viewed non-Iris cover, then I would post Iris covers again. But I've realized because YouTube is how it is and YouTube is YouTube and the algorithm is the algorithm, that's not gonna fucking happen. So, I've decided actually today, the day that this podcast is being recorded, in about 3.5 hours, there will be an Iris cover posted, and there will be a big wall of text in the comment section of that from me explaining a few things regarding Iris covers in the future.
Gonna have an entire Bible like written in your comment section.
Not quite that long, but it's not just going to be one paragraph for sure. It's going to be multiple, I think.
Yeah. In terms of song covers, I know you spoke about Studio One before, which is a software I've actually haven't heard before.
Yes, Studio One is the current program I use now. Before then, I was using the program SoundBridge, which sucks, and the online program Reaper, which also sucks. Um, so I started with Reaper, and then I went to SoundBridge, and now I have Studio One, which has the greatest settings I could ask for, because it's not like things like GarageBand or Mixcraft, where it's yes, I've used Mixcraft before, don't do that. Um, it's not like those where it has a super simple interface, but it's not like things like FL Studio and Pro Tools where the interface is so fucking complicated. It's user friendly, but if you know enough about things like DAW's digital audio workstations, for those who don't know what that means, if you know enough about them, you can go into Studio One with so much more than what it could initially offer you. And that's actually why my EQ settings are like my EQ and mastering is as good as it is today because I've learned Studio One so very well. And fun fact for those of you who are in the cover scene, the band Halocene uses Studio One, and they have for the past 8 years, I think.
Hmm.
So just a little fun fact for you.
Yeah, I've always used FL Studio for like I don't know how long I've used it for like maybe 7, 8 years now.
Fair enough. FL Studio is a little bit of a complicated one for me because the user interface, at least to me, it's just so bland and soulless. I think there's just so much more that you can use to, I guess, lighten everything up with Studio One. For those of you who don't know, I struggle with things like anxiety, and looking into like legitimately looking at Studio One's interface, it makes me tense up. It gives me anxiety because not only is it like gray and lifeless, but it's just so complicated. And admittedly, when you're first going into it, not knowing too much about things like DAWs, it's scary. It looks so intimidating. It's not fun.
It just stares at you back. You're like, okay, um, let me just
Please don't hurt me.
YouTube. You just come back to it after looking up 10 tons of tutorials. Yeah, I've still ain't bothered.
Yeah, you look at it and you go, please don't hurt me.
Jesus Christ. And in terms of upcoming covers, you have got like a few projects. Like I know in terms of your Discord server, like you have a bunch of projects lined up.
Yes, I have way too many for my own good that I'm working on right now because currently I I just put out today that we're recording this a cover of the band Famous Last Words, Welcome to the Show, which is starting an album project. I'm already working on the cover album for In Stasis from the band Monuments, which they're an amazing band. Please go check them out if you haven't. I'm currently working on the second iteration of the project The Dragon's Charge, which is from Dragon Force. And I'm also working on a cover album full of Lorna Shore music, and also some Ice Nine Kills apparently is in there somewhere. And I'm also working on a bunch of covers from the band Muse. So there is a ton that I'm working on right now. It is a little bit overwhelming looking at Studio One's song listing, the files. But I've kind of always run that way, multiple projects going at once, because I just kind of felt that if I can keep myself busy, I can keep myself safe and, working hard. And that stops anxiety from coming in. So anything to stop that, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I work at one project at a time. Like I've got only 3 projects releasing this week. I guess kind of 4 due to the law series I'm doing, but I don't really.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just a story at this point, which I'm still trying to write and get voice actors for, which is actually just stressful. But hopefully by February, the second chapter of that story will be released. And
Hell yeah, dude.
yeah, in terms of music though, I go one project at a time because you can make too many tracks for one project, but only certain tracks get through. So stuff you left on the back burner could be used for something later down the line, which I always find useful.
Oh, absolutely. There are several covers that I've had the idea of doing, but my skill set wasn't as advanced as it is now. And I've been looking back on projects that I wanted to do, like Ice Nine Kills and Falling in Reverse, which is having a single coming out at the beginning of February. Good God, I'm having a lot of projects, but it's like I always saw bands like Falling in Reverse and Ice Nine Kills and Lorna Shore as very intimidating when it comes to doing covers. But now I'm very confident in my abilities, and I think that if I work hard enough, I can achieve at least a result that I'm comfortable with quality wise. And if I so choose to, I can look back at those results later on and choose whether or not to redo them with my abilities being what they will become later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, music is just, it's a plethora of inspiration that you can always take from, whether it be from like doing a cheeky little sampling of a different song, or using a specific style to create your own. I always find that
Mm.
amazing when it comes to music. Um, yeah, I just find music such a comforting thing.
Yeah, music for me is just like okay. If you have music's the venting chamber for me. If I get angry, I'll start making a boss track theme. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like make it really heavy. If I'm like I don't know feeling low, I'll be like okay, lo-fi, because
Oh,
certain moods affect the way I make music. I find it
oh
weird.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the times that I'm, not feeling up to doing things like metal and, you know, deathcore now, I've been doing a project that is, very low key. I don't know when exactly it's coming out, but it's a lot different from all the stuff that I'm used to doing. And I can't wait for that one to show up because I think people will be like, "Whoa, where's this coming from? You normally do metal and hard rock and even, death stuff." But, I always pride myself on the fact that I can do a lot more than just metal and rock. I can do a lot that people don't expect me to do. Like you hear my voice, um, you don't think I can, but I've even delved into doing like not fully like the full genre, but my voice can even have like a country style to it,
Hmm.
which is really weird, like a soulful kind, which, you don't really hear it. You normally think of that shit. But it's I pride myself on having a very diverse range of genres that I can go to if I don't feel like one in particular.
Yeah, but I guess in terms of I think in terms of gaming, what's your like overall favorite game? I know it's striving off into like a different topic, but in terms of like nerdcore, like in terms of that genre, what's your favorite game to play?
At the current moment, I don't have a favorite game to just casually play, but my favorite game series of all time is Kingdom Hearts.
Fair enough, fair
Um,
enough.
and at the same time branching off into Square Enix, the same company that made it, Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts have just always been places where I felt comfortable because it's kind of like my stories. The lore is super expansive and the games are just so interesting to go into and find out the little things that can make the experience enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like the in terms of that style of game, Kingdom Hearts, it's what do they have they're having an upcoming game, aren't they? Because it was announced, was it
It,
sometime last year?
Yes. The most interesting thing about Kingdom Hearts, of course, is the hellish development cycle that Kingdom Hearts 3 went through. For those of you who don't know, in the Kingdom Hearts community, Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced, I think, in 2008 when they showed the first trailer for it, and it actually came out in 2019. we
Ooh,
were we were waiting a straight 11 years for that thing because they changed gaming engines, they changed softwares for the animation, they changed softwares for the cutscenes. They switched from, I don't know which one it was back then. I think it was like Maya or something, but they changed over to Unreal Engine, so they had to remake every single asset that they had for the games into this new engine. And it was so hard because they were also creating side games during that time to branch out the story. But now that Kingdom Hearts 4 has been announced so soon after Kingdom Hearts 3, people are there's the meme going around saying like, "Can't wait to play Kingdom Hearts 4 in 2053." Uh,
Jesus Christ.
can't wait to play Kingdom Hearts 4 with my grandkids. But I have hope that it'll come out like either later on next year or the year after, because games normally do take a long while to make, but because they've made the genuine switch into a different engine and they're confident in that gaming engine, I think they'll be able to create Kingdom Hearts 4 a lot quicker than they did with
Yeah,
3.
it shouldn't take 11 years. So, like, if terms of switching engines, that would take a lot of more time because you're learning an entirely new engine, and it would entirely like delay it by like a few years to learn the software first, then another few years to actually get the ball rolling. So.
And again, not to mention at the same time they were creating the side games at the
Yeah,
time.
that will also slow production down of the main game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Kingdom Hearts community is like, okay, we'll have to wait another like 50 years. I'm like, can you just I don't know, not wait another 50 years? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Don't weigh the experience down for the rest of us. We want this thing to come out soon. You're just going to convince Square Enix to just say, you know what? You want the rest of the story? You want the rest of that sweet lore? No.
you want the law? Ha, naff. Just waving a finger at them. You no. Yeah, I feel like I don't even know what my favorite game franchise is. I don't know because it varies between Sonic the Hedgehog, Five Nights at Freddy's, and right now, um, Choo Choo Charles. I'm switching between those
Ah,
three every single time.
yes.
And
The
then
spider
and then
train.
occasionally it goes to Undertale slash Deltarune. Then it just goes back to Sonic.
Ah, fair enough.
It's a
Yeah,
loop at this
Deltarune and
point.
Undertale are very interesting games because you think about it and it's like they're very, low budget, but because of the weird antics of the characters, it just makes the experience so different, you know.
Yeah, yeah. How? So I mean, speaking of indie games, how do you find Choo Choo Charles to be? Is it because people wait like an entire year for that game?
Oh, longer than that even.
Longer than that? Oh yeah, it was like longer than a year, I think.
I think that the first teaser like image for it, I think was in like 2019 actually.
Oh,
Yeah. And I know Will has been following it ever since. I only got to following it in like 2020 when there was actually videos pertaining to it. And honestly, even though it has some things that could be changed up, I think the game is fantastic. $20 for it is absolutely a fair price for the enjoyment that you get out of it. My favorite character is the pickle lady. I fucking love her. I need my pickles. Yes, she is fantastic. I absolutely commend the whole team on that game for everything they did because at the same time of it being a great experience, I think it just looks gorgeous for
yeah.
being developed by such a small team.
I was about to say it was like I think it started off with one person working on the game. That it just expanded as time went on, and that's
Yeah.
something I
I
can
mean,
commemorate.
one guy I think made the like all of the assets and the animations, and the rest of the team were the voice actors. I
Yeah,
think just one guy created the game while the rest of the team added onto it. And I think that's so cool how such a small team of people can create such a satisfying experience. I mean, the game is fun. It's just stupid fun.
yeah.
And I think that's the main draw of it too.
Yeah, I feel like this, like Choo Choo Charles, if there was to have multiple games, like a sequel or a prequel later down the line, it could turn out to what Scott was doing. Like he started off with just him, like using Click Team, and then it can expand to multiple companies grabbing hold of the game and expanding the universe to Scott's image as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it could definitely go that route. But at the same time, I think Choo Choo Charles is very different from the rest of the quote mascot horror series
Yeah,
that we've been getting in the indie horror mix because it's not mascot horror. It's taking a meme and putting it to be so much bigger than it ever needed to be. And I think that's just a great idea. I think more games need to be not so serious with themselves because you find a lot of games nowadays like Poppy Playtime, which I think it's a good game, but the team working on it are just total shitheads. Even FNAF at this point has got too, you know, serious with itself. It doesn't know how to have fun with itself anymore without being a broken mess. Whereas Choo Choo Charles, it knows that it's ridiculous. It knows that it's outrageously, out of left field, but it has fun with itself. And with that experience, it creates an amazing time. Like I fucking love it.
it's like whenever you play like a beta of Call of Duty, it's like okay, these could be glitches and fun. I'm like, can we just keep this as the actual game? We don't need bug
Yes.
fixes. Can we just have this just shipped out, please. Because if we find like other glitches and stuff like that in any sort of game, it's gonna be a fun time. Even with ragdoll physics, it's obviously gonna be a jolly good time for everyone.
Huh, an indie horror game that had a beta that was good, but when updates came, it became worse. I don't know where I've heard that from. Hello, neighbor.
Brussels, you just out them out like that.
Yeah.
Helen Neighbors had a very, very big downturn as recently with the second game.
I never really liked it in general. I only liked the alpha version, like the very first alpha with the neighbor that like learned from your mistakes in the game. I think that was a super cool concept, but they never fucking built on it. So annoying.
Yeah, all they removed like the actual decent assets and added new ones that weren't supposed to be in the game to begin with. Like
Yeah.
like Alpha One of Hell Neighbor One was the best alpha out there, and even people can admit that.
Oh yeah, I think that realistically, Hello Neighbor could have been amazing. I still think it has the potential to be if the team would get their heads out of their asses and listen to criticism.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. But that's just my take on it. If anyone has differing opinions, I mean, they can have that, you know.
Yeah, they can just just complain on Twitter. I mean, that's the wrong place to complain, to be honest, because you might get cancelled for it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, speaking of Twitter, how are you finding other social platforms to overtake themselves? I know, what was it? Over time, Facebook slowly died down. Then Instagram was a thing. Still is a
Oh
thing.
yeah. I mean, I still use Insta from time to time. I use Facebook more often than most people because it's how I interact with most of my family.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I am very integrated into, my family and the social aspect of that. Especially recently because we've had a bit of a crisis. That's why I haven't been making as much content like as I said in my most recent update video. 2022 fucking sucked, and it wasn't just from, the social aspects that I've had with communities in the past. My family has been through a lot the past few years, and that just made 2022 an all the worse experience. And I really hope, as I've said multiple times, I really hope this year makes up for it. I want this year to be a significant change in my life from this point forward.
Yeah, like people are now saying, oh, okay, 2023 started off with the wrong foot. When does any year start off on the right foot? I'm just saying that now. You're just continue like back to back years. You're gonna start off with a bad foot, but then midway through the year you could have like an uprise saying that okay, this isn't actually a good thing that's happening this year. Then it could go south, but it depends on what government, celebrity deaths and all that stuff. That's what the main thing happened with last year. There's too many celebrity deaths, too much crisis happening all over the world. It's just, can we have at least something decent this year?
Yeah, I think the main reason why people are, garnering on the starting off on the wrong foot this year, holy shit, is because the last few years have been filled with so much chaos in the world that it is so hard to look for anything positive anymore.
Yeah,
The moment something goes wrong, like at the beginning of a new year, people are going to say, "Oh, it's 2020 part, 4 or some shit like that." It's People are way too negative nowadays, and I can attest, I'm a fairly pessimistic guy, but even I can see that this sort of mob mentality that every year since 2020 is going to be shit.
yeah.
It's not gonna be shit unless you make it shit. Sorry, algorithm, with the swearing. I know you're not gonna appreciate that, but
It's my channel. I don't care. I'm not gonna lie to you. If it gets taken down, we've had a good run.
fair enough.
Fine.
Hey, you have different Google accounts. You can make another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do have a secondary channel, but that's not that's not gonna be for like gameplays and reactions and stuff. That's mainly lore based, so that's staying lore based. for a very
Yeah,
long time.
fair enough.
I mean, speaking of law, you've got the Fall work. You're working on the Fall.
Yes. That.
That massive chunk of your like work there.
Yeah. I think that the one thing I've learned from creating The Fall is that good things come to those who wait.
Yeah,
And I say that as in like I haven't had a lot of people garnered towards The Fall. I have a fairly small community even as like a channel. Like the Winter Society only has 200 some odd people. But those who do focus on The Fall, honestly, they're a really dedicated group of people, and sometimes that scares me with how dedicated they are.
I saw.
Um,
I keep seeing the memes and the text channel and Discord. I'm like, oh my god, this is going somewhere.
there are some people in the community who do just stick around with it for the memes, but there are some people, like a specific person. I'm not going to name them, but they have actually done something for when the most recent project called Rise with Negativity releases that I'm going to put in the description of the video, and it's a slideshow pertaining to the major characters and events of Rise with Negativity, so that even if you're confused, you can go to that and go, "Oh, so that's what happened in this part, or that's what that was supposed to represent." And that person in particular has been huge with providing the fall as much support as it needs, to at least stay relevant in my community. They've always just had that strong connection to it and its characters. And I really can't thank that person enough. As I said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say their name here, but they know who they are. You know who you are. And I seriously thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting this as much as you have.
Oh hell yeah. In terms of the Fall as a whole, how would you get in terms of voice acting? I saw there was a post on Twitter regarding voice acting saying you can step up. How? Because I saw the tweet had about maybe couple like 50 plus comments, 50 plus like requests. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I actually don't know how that happened because I made that post like really desperately and I
Hmm.
didn't know that, there were going to be a lot of people. But, in the voice acting industry right now, especially with everything that's happened with, for example, Rooster Teeth, they're a big company that recently had a lot of their voice actors and animation team let off
Hmm.
just all of a sudden at random. And I've learned through that news that like voice actors need work right now. And when I sent that tweet out, it just got a whole bunch of voice actors who have been, let off, who have been looking for work. And it just spiraled. And I think now there's over 100 comments on that thing all of the sudden. And it's kind of made me realize, if they're dedicated enough, they'll do it. And I can't thank the people enough who have actually accepted um my offers to them, for payment and all that. Cause honestly, I just want to get this thing off the ground. And if it grows as big as I want it to, that'll just be a dream come true.
Yeah. Go try and find the the tweet you put out for the voice actors, see how many comments it got. Just to have like a rough sort of like an actual dead on like count of how many comments there are. Because there was a
Yeah,
lot.
I don't know for sure, but it's gotten a lot more attention than I ever thought it would, at least.
Yeah. It had like Jesus Christ. I'm even looking at the views. It's got what was it? 20.1K views
Oh shit,
and
that's the
100
most.
and like 123 replies.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like it was somewhere in the hundreds. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And there are some people who have, replied to me that have said, you know, actually, never mind thinking about what you're offering here. This isn't for me. But they've even those people have gone to the effort to retweet it and go like, hey, this deserves as much support as it possibly can get. And that just gave me kind of like a warm, fuzzy feeling. I was like, ah, man, people are going out of their way to support my shit. Yeah.
This.
I think just creating the fall is enough for me. Um, I think it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. It's helped me a lot in terms of my own mental health. Because that's something very prominent in the series. It focuses a lot on different mental health states of different characters. And while that may not be for some people, there could be people that take solace in knowing that these characters, even though they're just characters, can go through kind of the same things we do as humans.
Hmm. I mean, in terms of like mental issues, I feel like you having the Fall as a little venting chamber is a good option because it's it helps you learn about yourself more. Like it helps understand different emotions more. Like you can put like you can put one emotion to one character, like and have different point of views, different experiences, different journeys for each character as well. That would let people know how to deal with those struggles down the line as well. So it will help them and it will also help you.
Absolutely. Um, there's a specific character. He's actually the kind of the main man right now that I'm focusing on. He's called Evan Michaels. He is one of the biggest characters, not only in the story that I'm crafting right now, which is Rise with Activity. I'm hoping to get that done by the month's end. But he's a very complicated character in the sense that he's he started as a man who was at rock bottom in his life, not just like emotionally, but in society. He he was homeless for most of his life. He got he could have had the opportunity of so many jobs and careers, but those were snatched away from him at the last second. So it's in the sense that the other reason why I think people are going to connect with him so much is that because of the current opportunity that he has in terms of, a job and work, he grows to a state of power. But eventually in the story, that power consumes him. It makes him go insane. And the reason why I'm creating this story in particular as a portion of the fall is because whether you look at it or not, that shit happened. People become so corrupt with power and opportunity that they go crazy. They screw people over, they hurt people. And I want to use Evan Michaels as a way to portray that even though you may be at rock bottom, corruption and power isn't the way to go. You can experience life's greatest portions without having a stance of power, without having a stance of control. You can always find a different way than to hurt people, which is what Evan does. And I've talked with a couple people in the community, and I've asked them, do you think Evan Michaels as a character can be redeemed? Because there are a lot of stories nowadays where the villain of the story, or however many, like anti-heroes and villains, are redeemed, like from their actions. They have this sudden realization that they're doing shit wrong, and eventually through proving themselves, they go on the side of the heroes. And I've asked a couple people in the little community that is the fall, do you think he can be redeemed? And the answer that I've gotten from all of them is, I don't know. And that's absolutely fair, because with most villains that are redeemed, they've done horrible things, but not to the state where they can, that they're untouchable, that they can't have a sense of redemption. But with Evan's character, it's different because he has done so many wrongs. He's killed people, he has tortured several individuals. And through those actions, through causing at a certain point in the story countrywide genocide, you don't see that as a character that can be redeemed. And I just find it interesting how a lot of people say they want him to have a redemption, even though he's done such awful things, you know?
Yeah.
And I always find characters like that super fascinating, where it's a moral dilemma of, do you want them to be redeemed because of the things that they've done?
Yeah, I guess it's the like when you ask your community, okay, do you think that this cat can be redeemed? It's like, oh, I don't know. But if you ask them, do you want them to be redeemed? It's going to be a totally different answer.
Yes. And particularly with this story, Rides with Negativity is meant to establish Evan Michaels not only as a villain, but as a human being, a person with emotions and conflicted feelings about what they're doing. Especially in Evan's stance, where he's killed people, he's broken so many lives that it's almost impossible for him to receive any sort of redemption. But it makes you look into his eyes and see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to point him as a man who's gone through so much that the people who've wronged him deserve for this all this stuff to happen. No. It's to point out that this can happen to anybody, and anybody can turn into a villain like him. And sometimes you just don't want those people to be redeemed. You don't, they can't be. And his kind of arc in the story is him realizing that he's done wrong, but every single time he tries to leave it, he can't bring himself to do it.
Hmm.
I think it like that aspect brings a very interesting dilemma for a listener or a reader, because they desperately want to see this person do good and fight the good fight, and potentially even at some point, if they're not actually fully redeemed, maybe even sacrifice themselves to show that they have this shred of goodness. But I think people will be interested to see that dilemma with Evan, because he's such a complex character.
Yeah, people would be interested to see, okay, if they've done this wrong, but if they see a spark of redemption, they'll be like, okay, this could lead into something later down the line. But with most villain arcs I've seen in like films and TV shows, they just go straight down and down. So it's nice to see like a change of pace in some circumstances. It gives like
Oh yeah.
a redemption, a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
I
that's
mean,
the best way to. I feel that's like a better ending than most um sort of stories go. It depends on who the character is and what they've done. So
yeah. And I always find two-dimensional villains fascinating. I don't like villains who, have that cartoonish twirling mustache and, the ha ha, I'm going to destroy the world because I feel like it. And fuck you, that's why. I always find villains who have a tragic story to them so captivating, because it makes them not just like an archetype of a character, it makes them more attuned to like a human. It
yeah,
makes them real, it makes them relatable. And I've always strived to create a villain that people, they want to see them lose, but if they see them die, they'll say, I actually kind of feel bad for wanting this to happen.
yeah,
I think villains like that are just some of the most creative characters and the most fascinating to go into the headspace of, because you never think, what was the Joker thinking when he did all of this? What was, all of these different villains across fiction, a lot of them never really go into what they're thinking. But with this, I'm taking an entirely different route, and not only showing you what they're thinking. I'm taking you through like his entire life and showing you what happened and what drives him to do what he does.
Yeah. So, yeah, the fall is going to be a bit of an interesting sort of project to actually focus on. I'm all here. I'm all here for it.
Yeah, I it's going to take a long time to get to the point where I want it to be, but I can say for sure that I at least have the the rough skeleton of the entire story figured out. I know where I want it to begin and I know where I want it to end. And that's kind of the most important thing right now, at least.
Yeah, I've got the see with my law. I've got what was it? Chapter one's all done and finished, but I know where it's going, how it's going to end, and how it all connects with the sort of video aspect of what I've been doing for a long ass time. Because I always say to myself, okay, the videos that I've released in terms of all the channels I've been a part of, 50-50 of them are like lore based and non-canon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out a way to branch out and try and connect them. That's why it's gonna take a while, but that's why I can kind of just say, okay, this is gonna be an interesting like project to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, crafting a story, you don't have to have all of the details figured out right away. This is something that I've learned after years of experience in writing. I've always had the problem where I come up with a beginning and an ending, and I never settle down and try to write the in between portions.
Mm.
I always have that bare bones kind of plot, but I've never been able to fill it in like I am with all. And when it comes to this series, I'm very, very dedicated to it. So what I'm trying to do is split it up into manageable sections and figure out those sections and connect it to where I want it to eventually go.
Yeah,
And I think that's a tip that I I want to share with writers. Like if you're having trouble, settling with a concept in a story, try fleshing it out a little bit more because that way you'll see merit in it or you won't. And you'll know that that project is worth saving or if it isn't.
hmm.
Just a little reference for writers out there. If you're trying to get a project off the ground, I mean, try your best, but if you find it doesn't work, don't be discouraged. Writing takes a long time and story building takes a long time. I've been developing the fall over the course of I'd wager to say almost a decade now. And
Damn.
I've finally gotten it to a point where I'm proud and I can say, okay, this is where I want it to go. And I finally have a kind of a goal set in mind for where I want the story to end. I just, have to get there.
Yeah, it's little steps, and the more time you spend, like the more planning and the more time you spend on it, the better the outcome will be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, in terms of outside of the Fawn, what other was there any other law projects that you could have worked on but couldn't actually finish or couldn't make it into a full-fledged out story?
Oh my God. The number of projects that I've worked on to this point that I have scrapped because I thought they weren't good enough. I what I always did with my stories, I would always write them in Google document. That's what I would always do. I was a boy who didn't have anything else. And I would always go into Google Docs and I would always start writing. I have probably well over 2,000 stories that I've never finished.
Jesus.
And what I am loving about the fall is that I can find purpose for those projects because I've settled with this idea of something called the oververse, which is where every realm of fiction is. Every TV show, every movie, every game, even like tabletop games for fuck's sake, every single piece of media is its own separate universe. I've set up that idea, but I've also set up the idea of the counterpart to the oververse, the underverse. where it's the realm of forgotten dreams and ideas, where projects that have been scrapped lay dormant.
Yeah.
Intriguing concept, especially for me, because I've had so many things that I've scrapped and put to rest. Concept in mind, I can pull from any one of them and think to myself, maybe I can add this in a specific portion of the story. Or maybe I can add so and so, this character, or this item. It's filled with endless possibilities. And that's what I love about the fall. It's a well of every single project that I've ever done put into one singular medium. And the quote by quote main series of the fall, I don't think that's even going to be the main series, because I have so many areas, so many characters that I can expand on in what you'd call these days spin-off series
Hmm.
that focus on just individuals in this way grander story, this grander narrative. I can expand for years and never get bored. I just think that, like, doing that the way I have, I think that'll bring me endless writing opportunity, and I am absolutely okay with that. I'm more than thrilled to share even the scrapped projects with people because I can find bigger merit in them now, you know?
Yeah. I also like how you said on a live stream once that everything, even outside of the fall, is canon. Like
Yes.
it could also lead up to lore collaborations later down the line. You could expand to different universes for collaborations on their part as well, which I actually find really interesting.
And I've actually talked about this. Like, if I grew like the fall to a bigger standing, I could collaborate with so many other people and their stories to essentially bring other stories into the universe of the fall that would never have been possible before. You know, Dako has the project Hex, and he said he'd be willing to collaborate with people on, you know, their projects if they had merit. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what if that was one of those separate spin-off series where eventually something would happen for the characters of Hex to suddenly fall into the fall?
Hmm.
And I think that could be really cool if it, you know, worked out, you know? It's just it's filled with so many possibilities.
Yeah, that's why I like to that's why I like to commemorate the Fords, for example, because you can pull in so many different universes, and I feel like that could also expand the quote unquote main saga as well, if that's the sort of route you're going for.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, as I said, I don't like, I have an end goal, but that doesn't mean I need to rush to it. This could span for years, and I could just take my time developing characters, developing settings, and I could spend as long as I need to with just the so many different stories that I have in mind, just for years on end. And I'm absolutely willing to do that for people who want to see more of this story.
Yeah, that's why I have to commemorate the fall too much, because it's been it like as you said, it's been in like planning stages slash actual progress stages like for like nearly a decade. I'm still
Yeah,
trying to reach the 9 year mark. It's the life we live as like story writers, but it's worth it when it's actually coming into tuition.
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I know I've asked a question before, but in terms of other projects regarding the fall, what have you got planned for that?
Currently I'm working on the project called Rise with Negativity, which is a feature-length video regarding the life of the character Evan Michaels, who has been a giant draw for newcomers coming into this thing because he's the one I've expanded on the most. Um, Along with that, there are other projects in mind, and it gets into some strange territory here, so buckle up. There is currently in the works a Undertale style game that I am working on, which which is called Form and Adventure Through the Fall, which takes you into the perspective of the character Form, who is another giant draw for newcomers because Form is this, adorable little gelatin character. But what people don't realize is just their complacency in how the everything starts. Their story takes place at the very beginning of, in at least in this reality, the beginning of the entire oververse as a whole. The entire thing benches on what this character does. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but their complacency in the events leads to some pretty terrible things
Jesus.
without them even realizing it.
Yeah.
Along with that, I am working with an actual animation team on getting the first portion of the main series involving the character Samuel ready to publish onto even streaming platforms. That's what we hope to do. We hope to grow this thing eventually to get onto things like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and shit like that. We plan to grow this thing as much as humanly possible. And honestly, without this team that I'm working with, I can't say what they're called because of NDA stuff. Of course, that always gets in the way. But I seriously can't thank them enough because they've brought me more ideas than I have brought myself. uh, they're the reason why I have come up with the concept of the over and under. They've kind of brought me to, they've kind of brought it to my attention that I have so many unused things that could be very beneficial for building up a story like this with so many moving parts and fascinating yet ridiculous characters. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I really hope to just get it off the ground. And I hope that Rise with Negativity reaches a point where the community is consistently growing.
Yeah.
I really want to make it to that point.
It's a good goal for anyone who's doing project based sort of like lore based projects, I'd say.
Oh yeah, I think that you just gotta stick with your guns on whatever you're working on because a lot of people, I was contacted by someone else before settling with this team, and they were, I guess, they were kind of trying to turn it into something that I didn't want, and I kind of said to them, like, I appreciate the offer, but no, I want to stick with my creative properties on this. I want this to be something that I can be proud of without having someone else try and twist it into their image,
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be people out there that are trying to nab your story but then turn it into something that they wanted it to be, but that's not what you initially wanted your initial story to be. So you have to say, okay, I don't want to work with you because you're trying to turn something that I actually wanted to envision into something that you want. So it doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't. And that's kind of, creativity is a double-edged sword because you can find people that love your creation for all it's worth, but you can find people who want to take it
Yeah.
and fashion it into their own idealized version of what they think it should be. And I mean, I I know how that feels. I know what it's like to admire something so much to the point where you create almost a carbon copy of it. I've done that before. And it's the result of doing that that I find it so, the backlash I got from doing that. It's why nowadays I find it just so disgusting to
Mm.
see that happen to people with passion for their project instead of people who try to just steal without without remorse and without question, you know.
Yeah, there's also going to be like you could create something original, but it could be seen as a carbon copy of something for in other people's eyes, which is going to be a major problem when trying to write something in original.
Absolutely. It's something that has plagued my story for a long time. Um, the character Evan Michaels was always mistaken as an Abram Valentine clone. And
Yeah.
now that I've expanded his story into something far different, I don't think people will have any ground to stand on after Rise of Negativity is released because he's just not that character anymore. And I will admit, originally, yeah, he was kind of a carbon copy of Abram Valentine. I'll give people who said that thing that. I'll give him that. But now that I've taken a lot more care into writing this story, he's way different. He's way different, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, like I could see, like I like how as you progressively like write the characters, backstory and give them more like details regarding the fall. It blurs the lines between Abram and the character you're currently working on, which is
Yeah.
a major plus in both sides. It's like okay, you're not trying to copy him, but people will still see it as like it reminds me so much of him. It's just
I think that's why I'm liking the transition between the character that I had before and the character I have now. Because they can hear Evan Michaels' voice and think, hey, I think I've heard that, like that kind of tonality before. And maybe they'll connect it back to Abram. And I think, with how much I've changed his character, that could end up being a good thing. That could end up being something that connects people to the story.
yeah,
Like that draws them into it. Like this character is kind of like him, but I can see a lot of differences. So what's the story behind him? How is I want to follow this character's journey, you know?
yeah. So I think that's pretty much what. I also like how, in terms of form, you've got a little cult going on in your community.
Yes. The form cult. It's become, I guess, a meme in the community, the character form. I don't really get it, but hey, if it draws popularity to the character, it's a win-win situation. They get to have fun, and I get to grow. So, and that's really what I want for this community. It's just have as much ridiculous fun with it as you want. I have I've encouraged people to create memes. I have even assisted in creating some of the memes that are in this community so far. And I'm just so thankful that I have people that are, creatively inclined who can see, the serious side of it, but they can also see that, multiverses and different canons, that shit's ridiculous. I love that people can see the seriousness, but they can also see how batshit crazy and ridiculous it sounds. So I just feel kind of blessed for having that kind of duality in this community. You
Yeah.
know?
In terms of memes, I've made a few of my own. I've made a few of mine
Yeah,
that I've sent to you. You've
yeah,
posted one
Ran.
of them on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Um, there was a certain one of them that I really liked that pertained to a couple things. But anyway, we're not
We're
talking
not, we're
about
not,
that
we,
here.
we don't go that route. Okay, we're not talking about that.
But
Means,
yeah,
hmm. I guess in terms of community based, like people can see the serious side of things, but they could also turn it into like a sort of a joke format, saying we know it's serious, but we like to make fun of it.
yeah, and honestly, I can vibe with that. I can openly see that there are a lot of weird things in this series that almost it's asking to be made fun of because of just how ridiculous it can be. And you know what? If you do make fun of it, guess what? That still helps me grow. So do it all you want.
I just love the concept that since everything's canon to the fall, even the memes will be canon to the fall.
Exactly. Even the odd concepts that people can come up with in the memes, I can implement as little jabs at myself.
Hmm.
And I'm perfectly okay with doing that, you know? If people make a headcanon for a character, that headcanon is technically canon. So I don't know. I love seeing the creativity. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be like a major plus.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like in terms of expanding, the overall like expanding platforms of the fall is very good as well because because with the animation team you're trying to expand it to Netflix, like Hulu and stuff like that, which is actually gonna could be a big plus in terms of both the animation team, the story, and yourself.
Yeah, it could gain more traction. The animators on the team could get more recognition. It's just a win-win situation for everybody involved if it gets to the point we want it to be.
Yeah,
And honestly, I cannot commend the people that have been on this team enough. They've helped me so much with expanding what I've created, and they've made it into something so much bigger than I could have thought I could have made it. It's so much more ambitious. There are a lot of plot points that I do not think people will see coming, but it's because of the team that I'm able to say with confidence that, yeah, those plot points are entirely possible and you might be surprised by them, but I think it'll be a pleasant surprise when they happen.
yeah.
Although some of them, with character deaths, that might not be very pleasant. People might cry, but it.
I like how you just non-straight said, "Hey, they might die anyway."
Oh yeah, the one thing that I've always, prided myself on is not allowing plot armor to exist. The
Yeah,
concept of plot armor, because I just think if you're going to make a character, don't make them invincible, make them fallible, and make them able to die if the story could progress from that death. You think Samuel Barrington, the main character of the entire series, he's got to survive through the whole thing. Honestly, with how much the fall could expand, I could kill him off
hmm.
and the story would still have somewhere to go. I could create a new main character based off of the after effects of his death. I'm not going to do that because I have a set beginning and end for Samuel's character, but I'm not going to introduce plot armor to the mix because I think that's such a dumb thing to do. It removes all tension from whatever you're trying to build. And yeah, he's going to get brutalized. He's going to go through a lot of shit, physically and mentally. He could be tortured for all we know. Like this this series has gone to violent and dark routes before. I don't see why it can't happen to main characters. So that's the one other thing that I pride myself on. I will never save a character if I don't feel they need saving.
Yeah,
And that will lead to a lot of shock factor in the main series. Like, I might kill some characters that have a huge following right off the bat. Like, if they see a new character and they're like, oh, I really like them, I could have had the plan for them to be killed off the very next scene.
Hmm.
But the other thing that I will say is that I only kill off characters if their death means something to the story. I have a specific few characters that are made in the story to die and set off a specific chain of events. So just don't get too attached to anybody, I guess, because they all have the opportunity. everybody's fair game.
Do not get him like emotionally attached to him because they might end up 6 feet under. I'm just saying.
In the span of like 5 seconds, yes.
5 seconds in the story, yeah, dead, dead, dead. Yeah,
But again, only if it actually means something. Story. I won't just kill them off for the pure shock factor of it. That their death has to mean something
yeah,
for me to go that route. So yeah, that's that's kind of all I'm willing to share about, I guess, the fall for now, because I
yeah,
do have a lot that I'm planning for it. It's still in very early beta stages when it comes to animation. I've only got like 2 character renders at most. So,
yeah. But I'm pretty sure that was gonna be the end point of the topic of the fall as a whole, anyway. So,
all right.
and I feel like in terms of overall like YouTube work, in terms of Winter Dust stuff, you plan on doing reactions and the new series that you thought of and kind of announced was the 3R series, I believe it was.
Yes, Triple R is a series which stands for React, Review, and Rank, where I go through several different musical projects, bands and artists and things maybe that are, project based like Iris or Lone Wolf Music that I will, react to it, I will review it, and I will rank them all in a tier list. And eventually, I plan to increment this into, I guess, seasons of it. Specific episodes will have runs that go like an episode a week, and then I'll stop for a while, and then as a big season finale, I guess you could place it as, I will rank the projects that I've done so far, like that I've gone through, and rank what I think is like the best of those projects.
Yeah,
And I think that could really be something that I do a lot on the channel, because I'm getting a lot more free time. The only why, I mean, this podcast in general, like everything has taken so long, is because of Rise with Negativity, that big feature length project.
yeah.
It's a fucking movie, and it takes a lot of time to do. So, like after it's done, I'm gonna have a lot of free time, and doing Triple R is something that I could really, pride myself on. I could show a lot of my music storytelling knowledge to increase the effect that those reviews or rankings have, like, on me as a personality. Like, I want to show that I'm an artist with integrity and knowledge this year.
Yeah,
And I think Triple R is a great way to do that.
yeah. I feel like I've only done one. No, I've done two sort of review type stuff. One for my own works, and the other one which I'd done recently was for the Psychotic Memories trilogy covers that you did.
Yes. And even though I think that series is, like, that trilogy is great, I think the racers that are coming later on in the year will be much better.
100%.
Um, I've not announced that too publicly yet, but yes, I am doing that, and I think they will be so much better in terms of, musicality, leveling, especially. That's the one main issue with everything in that trilogy, was the leveling.
Yeah, that was my main complaint when I did the overall, sort of tier list system. I was like, okay, leveling isn't that good, but the overall track vibe and the overall like mix, the overall master mix and whatnot was fairly decent. So I ranked them as I should have.
Yeah. And yeah, you ranked them pretty fairly. And some of them weren't necessarily to my taste, but hey, that's another thing in music that we gotta just, it's a necessary evil. People have their own taste. Even though I thought Hiding was a really good track, you didn't.
Yeah, it was it was that one was rough to rank. I'm like,
I think the reason why you ranked that one so low, it wasn't necessarily the quality of the track. It was just more of a genre thing. And I
yeah,
totally get that.
yeah. The genre was with it. I can't speak. What the brain fart? The hell? The overall genre of that track was not for me. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, again, rap isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I even included that track is because it's necessary to the Psychotic Memories story. Otherwise, honestly, I would have just thrown that track out the window and not done it.
Hmm.
But because of what I view as the overall quality of the Songmaster, like the levels are actually pretty decent in that one.
Yeah.
That's why I kept it. That's why I think it's a fitting song to have in the trilogy. Um, does that mean I'm ultimately, accepting of it? No, I don't think a rap song should be in the Psychotic Memories trilogy. That's
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. But I think it was good enough to, hold its own, hold a candle to some of the songs that are in there.
Yeah, because I remember in what was it Downfall of the Sky? So I rated the second track of the album, the first one, a 10 out of 10 because I feel like that one suited your voice a bit more. Then I
Yeah.
started dabbling into the rest of the album. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, everything works for him. Then hiding.
I mean, I'm not the best with rap in general, but here's a little thing for you guys. There is a track coming out in the beginning of February that I've shown this man here, and even though it's more of a rap pop based track, he actually kind of likes it.
Don't spoil the surprise, man. Yeah, I did like the overall mix of it. I did like the overall aesthetic of the track as well, so that means it was a big plus. But that one was definitely way better than hiding. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially with the EQ set that I had back then, anything at this point in like that I'm releasing is going to be better than hiding. Let's be real.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Ha, I've improved since then.
I've improved since the old days. Alright, sick.
The olden days of yore, I had compression on my vocals.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of music, I'm still learning as I go along, really. I'm pretty
Oh
sure
yeah,
everyone does, because there's always room for improvement.
absolutely. Music is something that you just gotta keep working on, and you're never really perfect at it. You're never going to hit a point where there's nothing you have left to learn. There's
Yeah.
always something new with music.
There could be like a new, I don't know, a new plugin or a new sort of preset that you've actually found out that could actually benefit the track. So there's always more stuff to discover and more stuff to learn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think music is just one of those things where there's always something else that you can do to make yourself so much more well-rounded in it. And even if it's not something you're necessarily into, like in my case, rap, I was never into it. I never really liked it, but there are some bands um, or artists that I find can really do it well and can do it well enough for me to be intrigued by it and think maybe I could do that. You
Yeah.
know, it's it's a case where music is one of those things where you have to step out of your comfort zone in order to have a representation of the whole of your community view you as someone who's well-rounded. You can't just stick to one thing like metal or rock or even in some cases like chiptune or like gaming music in general. You can't just go towards one thing. You
Yeah.
have to be so much more well-rounded. And I think that's something that artists nowadays are doing a really good job at. Thinking about Lorna Shore's lead vocalist, they're a deathcore band, but Will Ramos, dude can sing. He
Dang.
has a gorgeous voice, and he recently did a vocal cover of the song Hypnosis from the band Sleep Token. and it, his voice, it's so fluttery, but it's gorgeous, and there's some quality about it that you think, this is an artist who did deathcore? No fucking way. This isn't the same guy. So that's just my 2 cents. I think well-roundedness is something that needs to be done
Yeah,
more
yeah,
nowadays.
diversity in genres is also a good option for bands as well as soloists, duoists as well, because it could spiral off to many different range of audiences.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I was never a fan of orchestral stuff. Then I started working with orchestral sort of instruments. I'm like, you know what? I have to give in. I have to give in.
Oh yeah. There there's just something about the sounds of, violin and trumpets, and all of, I don't have anything off the top of my head, but like, there's something special about having an orchestra backing a track that just makes it that much more epic at
Yeah,
times,
gives it more of an impact as well as the like feel like, oh, this could be movie style quality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, diversity in genres is also good. It's also a good thing in terms of learning new stuff in whatever, it could stray into like learning new chords, learning new like melody progressions. It could spiral into something new because you don't want to burn up all your ideas for one genre too quickly. So that means you have to expand into different genres to use those ideas. And even some ideas for different genres can help with, like, let's just say you pick out like a melody from, I don't know, like a metal sort of thing. But if you made it like swing, it could go to, I don't know, sort of like a jazz type of blues type thing.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Agreed. You can just music is always a learning experience. You
Yeah.
can take so many things from so many genres and make it sound your own. Even even if you choose the exact same melody from something, you switch genres and it immediately becomes yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie to you, I have ran out of topics to talk about.
All
'Cause
right.
we covered gaming, music, projects, how you started YouTube, and overall expansion of, different channels as well.
Alrighty, fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's all the time we have for this one. Thank you so much for having me on.
no problem. It's a pleasure always having people come on, also having different communities colliding as well. That's also
Absolutely.
an amazing thing because this would just be like a. Imagine later down the line we have the war of the communities. Oh Christ! Oh no!
Yeah, but seriously, thank you for, just just taking the time to view everything, to asking me questions about it. I always love to interact with different communities and different, people. And, getting my voice out there, it's the best thing in the world. And hearing other people's stories is amazing. So seriously, thank you.
Yeah, no problems. Also, thank you for coming on. Thank you for accepting the podcast request. It was always nice to have someone on because we have. I'm not gonna lie, the list for the guest list is very short right now as of recording this. So you were the first
Fair.
person that was you're the first person that accepted the podcast request. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, of course. Anytime, man. Anytime. If you just need a guest on here to just bullshit about random stuff, I'm here for you.
Yeah, just think of a co-host. Go on, Winner Society, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime. Anytime, man.
Yeah, so where can everyone find you? Like, if there's any, because we know we discussed about the second channel. Is there any other social like links that we can go to, or?
That would be my Twitter page. Mostly. I post a lot of updates there. I post random memes. I'm a meme lord. That's something I pride myself on too. I'm very diverse when it comes to memes. Um, I'm also in a lot of different, fandom communities. I'm well versed in, areas of fiction. That's how I came up with the first place. Just the different characters that I've, you know, prided myself over the years. So yeah, Twitter is the main place. You can find me on Instagram too. I'll share the links, and those are going to be probably in the description of the video.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So if you like what you saw here, make sure you subscribe to this channel as well as Ian's channels. Make sure you also follow both of us on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the hell comes to mind. We'll be there giving you updates or posting random stuff. It's just always going to be a jolly good time on every single platform. So I've been Brandon B.B.B of the B.B.B channel. This has been Ian from the Mr. Society channel, and we would like to say goodbye for now and stay tuned for more.
In due time.